Mswatu inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo akayithathe yetinza bakewuni akayithathe
Your time now is 2 p.m. You are watching the Monday edition of Market View right here on Eswatini TV. I'm Nathalie Sitole, glad to be your host this afternoon. A pivotal moment for the nation's youth and the economy as the Prime Minister officially launches the National Youth Development Coordination Framework, aimed at expanding skills, unlocking opportunities and driving youth-led entrepreneurship. This framework promises to bring together government, private sector players and development partners to better coordinate efforts and deliver real impact, tackling issues such as youth unemployment and the skills gap. Will this be the turning point or just another program on the shelf? Today we engage with the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries Eswatini, who are part of the consultation process to give us a sense of what this framework really means for the youth, most importantly SMEs and young entrepreneurs. But first, our business stories. In our business news this afternoon, the Prime Minister, His Excellency Rasa Dlamini, has officially launched the National Youth Development Coordination Framework. Speaking at the Hilton Garden Inn in Babane, the Prime Minister says this important initiative is designed to bring partners together, align efforts, and strengthen coordination to ensure meaningful impact and expanded opportunities for young people across the country.
The Ministry of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs has labored diligently to devise the National Youth Development Coordination Framework, which seeks to harmonize endeavors, balancing development and ensuring that the fruits thereof reach all youth, irrespective of their stations. I am informed that the principal objective of the framework is to delineate with clarity the roles, responsibilities, and institutional bonds among youth coordination structures, thereby reducing duplication and fortify accountability. It is to foster enhanced collaboration and prudent use of resources among government, civil society, the private sector, and partners in development. It is also to promote meaningful and inclusive participation of youth at constituency, regional, and national level. The objectives are to institute standardized systems of data collection, reporting, and evidence-based planning and monitoring and appraisal. And finally, it is also to cultivate capacity across coordination organs, thereby elevating planning, implementation, oversight, and the pursuit of continued improvement.
European Union Ambassador Kirsten McClanberg has outlined the bloc's continued commitment to empowering young people, highlighting years of support through various initiatives aimed at skills development, innovation, and employment creation. He emphasized that this latest program builds on a long-standing partnership focused on unlocking opportunities for youth and fostering sustainable growth.
The European Union in Eswatini has indeed, since 2021, focused its programs on youth. As a result, over 24 million euro, approximately 473 million in Malangeni, have been allocated for the period 2021 to 2027 for different areas in youth development support. With such investments being made in the country, it is therefore prudent that different stakeholders in the country and development partners align in their different strengths to complement each other's to complement each one's efforts and avoid the duplication and thus potential inefficiencies of your programs.
The Minister for Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs, Bongani Nzima, says government remains under pressure to deliver meaningful solutions as youth unemployment continues to rise. He notes that the Prime Minister has consistently challenged the ministry to develop impactful projects that will absorb a significant number of young people into the workforce and help drive economic participation.
Nakakhuluma nathi siyicabinet uyayathi go and make mega projects that will hire more than thousands of the young people. Hayi lama projects la tawuhayarisha 100 noma 200 webantwana noma ke bantu labasha, because ngeke siyikhanzele poverty kule ndlela seyikhona ngayo kulabantu labasha if sitawuchubeka nemsebenzi lonjalo ngekwenza imisebenzi lemincane.
Meanwhile, the Eswatini National Youth Council's Chief Executive Officer, Lwazi Mamba, has pointed out several ongoing initiatives designed to support young people.
As we speak today, we are proud to inform you that we have successfully accomplished the following milestones. One, it was the development of the stakeholder mapping. We have generated a comprehensive profile of youth-led and youth-serving organizations, development partners and government ministries and agencies. We have a profile for all those that are involved in youth development. Secondly, we developed and operationalized a stakeholder database, which is a digital platform that focuses on consolidating information on all youth sector stakeholders.
The youth have said as stakeholders intensify efforts to tackle youth unemployment, collaboration between government, international partners, and youth-led institutions remains critical. They say the success of these initiatives could play a pivotal role in shaping a more inclusive and economically active future for the young population. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
Eswatini products valued at nearly 2 million malangeni were successfully exported to Taiwan for the Eswatini Cultural Festival, a flagship showcase of the country's culture, craftsmanship and commercial potential, according to a press statement by the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority. Sibusiso Mnisi, Executive Manager Trade Promotion at APA, states that the participating brands are Black Mamba Foods, Tintaba, Swazi Candles, Swati Secrets and Boaba Batik. He says this achievement underscores the growing demand for Eswatini products in international markets and reflects strengthened economic cooperation between Eswatini and Taiwan. Mnisi adds that EPA facilitated the participation of local producers, artisans and agribusinesses, with the exhibition featuring traditional crafts such as grass weaving and batik, alongside organically certified agricultural goods. A key enabler is the Economic Cooperation Agreement, ECA, between Eswatini and Taiwan, covering nearly 200 product lines and providing preferential market access. The festival, attended by Taiwan's Foreign Minister Lin Chia-lung, also marked the announcement of the Prosperity Economic and Trade Office to deepen government and private sector collaboration. APA is also facilitating participation in Designed Giftionary Taipei 2026 in April to expand market exposure and strengthen links with buyers. In quotes, exporting close to 2 million malangeni worth of products into Taiwan is a clear signal that Eswatini products can compete and succeed on the global stage, says Mnisi. And you're up to date with some of the latest in business. After the break, we speak to President of the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries, Eswatini. Stay tuned.
Those that are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we we have.
ikulona losetule
It's
emazulwini
all morning.
nangishumayela nina ngisuke ngidishumayela kwananami
When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to
I
myself.
receive umoya longcwele
I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare ukuthi a turnaround is coming my way
Memetela ukuthi a turnaround is coming in my life.
Inkosi akayithathe akahambe nayo.
Welcome back, and moving on with the program, as highlighted in our first story today, the Prime Minister, His Excellency Rasa Dlamini, officially launched the National Youth Development Coordination Framework. This landmark initiative is aimed at bringing partners together, aligning efforts and strengthening coordination to create real impact and expand opportunities for young people across Eswatini. But what does this really mean for the youth? We are now joined by Sakile Nsibanze, President of the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industries in Eswatini, to share how this framework will impact young people. Sakile, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. So the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industries in Eswatini was consulted in developing the framework. Can you share just how some of your inputs shaped the final policy?
A very good afternoon, Notsile, and thank you for having us on the show. So for a very long time as youth-led organizations, we needed a central coordinating body because we found that some of our efforts were duplicated on the ground in the sense that we didn't know who else was doing. But now that we have this launch today, it means that we'll be able to understand what someone is doing in Chiselweni. If I'm doing the same thing here, how can we link up together? So this kind of brings us together as youth-owned organizations to say that how are we coming together with our different efforts and our different mandates to serve the youth better in the country.
One policy, or rather one document to serve the youth. How will you be accessing young people? They're doing different initiatives in the different regions, different communities. We want this to have tangible impact. How do you think it's going to get to them?
It's through the Tinkundla youth councils within the framework itself, because there's a lot of, now they have a bottom-up approach where young people from grassroots level have committees all the way to the interministerial committee, which says that now our communication as young people will be heard almost immediately. And secondly is, if you see the plan itself, it also speaks on how we can conduct resource mobilization, and this will help us as young organizations to be endorsed to actually work with other with bigger organizations now in terms of making more impact on the ground.
Sakile, youth development initiatives, policy launches are really nothing new, except there's often the reality of impact. How do you, what's different with regards to this youth development coordination framework? What makes it different in terms of measurable results?
So now that we have this, it means that we'll have real-time data. Well, not real-time because we're going to have annual meetings to review the progress on the ground. That's what the framework says. So for a long time, we didn't know what was happening. Some young people there was no manual to help the young person navigate this country in order to know how to be successful. So I'm glad that we are at this point as a country because if you look at it, it's been a long time coming. And because there's a lot of structures in the country and policies that are still being refined and remade, it came in the right time to actually help us understand how we are moving forward as youth organizations, because you would find that some of them don't really have the design on how to navigate on the ground. And now that we have the framework, we'll be able to navigate better through the Secretariat, which is the Eswatini National Youth Council.
When we talk young people, one of the issues, or at least it tops the priority list, is youth unemployment. How do you see this framework addressing directly just that?
If I can quote the minister today, he spoke about mega projects. So that on the table, that excited us because we need to be linked to mega projects as young people. Our organizations have been our youth, in fact, have been bottom feeders for a long time. And now that we have been connected to the local system of how things work in Eswatini, I think it will be easier now to address the issue of unemployment, in the sense that we will be more organized now as young people, because we can see the end, and we can also see the help and the structures that are there to help us. So it means that we'll be able to link ourselves now to the mega projects that the country is making through the Grand Plan, and we look forward to also being incorporated and updated to understand where we are with the Grand Plan. And I believe that now that we have this launched, we will be able to get communication from the government as directly as it comes.
Sakile, the existing national youth policy identifies areas such as education, entrepreneurship, and governance, among others, as priorities. Does this framework then prioritize any specific sectors, or it's rather a coordination tool that says we've got agency A, they're willing to work with the YCCIE, or how does it really work?
It's a coordination tool.
Right.
So it means that it covers everything. It covers everything in the sense that we have civil service organizations, we've got business service organizations, and all of those could be youth-owned. And we also have social issues, so there's the economy, there's the social. So how do we bring those two together? So the framework actually brings those two together and maps out on how we can actually work now as young people in terms of passing on information from our communities all the way up to the government.
So Kile, you as an organization, you speak for SMEs, especially youth-led SMEs.
Yes.
What does this really mean for the young entrepreneurs who often rather experience the challenge of access to finance or limited access to finance due to having no collateral and so on and so forth? What does this really mean for them? Is this a coordination that addresses the challenge easier, or it's one that invites them to the table to say we can talk about how you get to access finance?
It means now we can find you where you are. Because access to finance is not that hard to come by in the country. In the sense that maybe a young person from Eswatini wouldn't be able to reach some of the information that a young person from Babane might have had easily. So this framework maps out every young person on the ground in the country. So it means that now the way that we disseminate information is more decentralized. So what does this mean for the small medium enterprise or the startup? It means that now the business service organizations are going to be better organized, and will also have all of the mechanisms to handle now the young people as they come into our offices. We'll be able to tell them better information now, rather than before there was a lot of gray areas. Or maybe if we could get a call from someone in Pikes Peak, for instance, and our organization is more based in the Mbabane-Manzini corridor, it would be hard for us to assist them because of the communication mechanisms. But now it will be more easier with the councils that are being formed on the ground. We now know who the leadership is in the Lavumisa Youth Council, and we can be able to connect to them to say that we have this particular program where we would want to capacitate youth in order for them to maybe receive monies for their businesses. So it will be easier now for us to handle the communication.
And access to information as well.
Youth, yes.
Fair. Among other issues is that of skills mismatch and the digital economy, where, now it provides opportunities, or rather the opportunities are growing globally. How will this framework then prepare Eswatini for the digital and global job market?
We need to sort out our matters here in home first. The innovations that we have created as young people, we need to sandbox them in the country before we actually launch them outside. So now it means that we'll know who has good innovations, and we will have better mechanisms now to create the country as a launchpad to release them to the global markets if they are ready for the global markets.
How do we measure at least the expected impact of this? Because we don't want it to be something that only reaches people or young people at urban level. We do have young dreamers or young entrepreneurs even at community level, grassroots level. How do we ensure that the same promise is also accessible to them?
Maybe to just twist the question a bit, I would say that I am looking forward to having every young person in the country accounted for. In the sense that we should know what skills that you have as Notsile, so that we also understand the gaps now as service providers of the youth. How are we filling in the gaps? So if a young person comes in and they have a natural aptitude towards maybe mechanical engineering, because you spoke about the education pillar, it is easier now to know how many of those young people are interested. So as the young person comes in, we'll be able to better prepare for them as a country to say that after 18 years of capacitation, now maybe you are ready to go and explore more of the industry that you have been, inclining to as you were growing up. So I'm hoping that that the framework will become a tool now, an instrument to map out every young person, and as they are groomed by the system, we can see natural leaders. We now don't have to rely too much on voting in order for us to know if this person will be corrupt or not. We will know that they were prefects in grade 3 and they did well. So those are my hopes. But obviously, not everything pans out as you would imagine it, because as you understand, the framework is just that. It's just a frame. So now it is for us to put in the flesh within this framework.
How? The tool is already there, but how now?
The how part is what I'm digging out to say that we will know where the gaps are now. Okay, in fact, we do know where the gaps are really, but we will be better able to render the help now through this, because our reporting systems are going to converge. I don't know if if our reporting systems converge, it means that we will now know who is doing where, so that we avoid redundancies. Because sometimes you find that in some of the resource mechanisms that we were doing in the country, we would have young person A come and learn about mindset change. And then they come back again next week and they'll learn about mindset change again. Fair. So that is a waste of resources. So now we do not have to go through that, but we will know, maybe now that they've learned about mindset change, they can now learn about business development or whatever else that they might be able to learn. So this is going to be a good tracking tool, in my opinion, to help us understand the daily gaps that we are trying to fill as civil service organizations.
Fair enough, Sakile. We'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. That was Sakile Nsibanze, President of the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries in Eswatini, talking to us about the just launched Youth Development Coordination Framework, where she says every young person will be accounted for under this tool. This is Market View. The show continues with in-house economist Anele Sibia after this.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is Market View. Now for our final segment of the show, our in-house economist analyst Sibia joins us virtually. Mr. Sibia, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. So news coming in from the U.S. is that Donald Trump is suggesting the U.S. could take the oil in Iran and potentially blow Kag Island, which rather handles the majority of Iran's exports. How are markets now reading this out? Are we looking at least a worst-case scenario? What does it really mean for oil prices?
Thank you, Natsile. What this has done to the markets is it has actually sent a bit of shockwaves in the markets, and immediately after that pronouncement, the price of Brent crude oil actually hit the $115,000 per barrel. There, just signaling that those news that are coming out of the White House are just showing that we are far from actually getting to a ceasefire, because when you look at the war machinery of Iran, it is so disintegrated such that regime change hasn't been quite an objective that the US was able to attain. Now imagine if you say you want to go into that country and take over its oil industry. So what you are essentially saying is you want to put boots on the ground, and that's what markets and overall political analysts have been trading, that we do not want to get American boots on the ground, because it would only escalate the situation further. So yeah, that actually did shoot the price of Brent crude oil up to $315 per barrel. But starting in the markets, the US, we're seeing major losses there with the Nasdaq Composite Index down to the 20,000 mark in terms of all share volumes. And then, the Standard & Poor's Index is continuing to be subdued back to that 6,300 region, losing 108 points in today's trade. The Dow Jones Industrial Average far below its, its February average of 49,000 to sit at 45,000 overall in today's trade, losing some 793 points in trade. And then if you move on to the Eurozone or the Europe, coming into Europe, we're seeing London, back on the 10,000 mark. And Germany, still subdued at that 22,000 mark. France, there, Paris is sitting on 7,695.90 in terms of all share volume. So what we are seeing here, Notsile, is a shift towards those defensive stocks. That's the same thing we are seeing in the US. We are seeing towards a shift towards those defensive old stocks, and then we're also seeing, the stay with the old economy there, where you know that the London Stock Exchange, Frankfurt and France have a lot of those old companies that tend to be recession proof, and they've actually proven that they are actually recession proof. Coming into the Asian markets, the Nikkei is continuing to hemorrhage, to hemorrhage volumes in trade ever since this war started. So we're seeing the Nikkei in Japan, they're losing 1,487.22 in terms of all their overall share volumes. We're seeing Hong Kong losing 201 points to 0.9 in terms of overall share volumes. But, sitting at that 24,750 mark, which signals that Hong Kong is relatively weathering these shocks, relatively stable. And then coming into Shanghai, we are seeing the Shanghai Composite Index climbing back the 3,900 mark, but it's very marginal. Again, that's largely due to the fact that we know that China has a lot of crude oil reserves, so we don't expect the situation that is that is hampering through Asia to actually have much of an impact in terms of the mainland China economy. And we do expect to see a bit of some stimulus coming in from the mainland there. And then Johannesburg, what we're seeing is, the Johannesburg is now struggling on that $100 111,000 mark, losing 127 points in today's trade. So we're seeing that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is always cushioned by the prices of gold there, and gold is back on that 4,500 mark. But we also saw a huge shift when we saw that those sentiments being made from the White House in terms of what it means for the end of the war in Iran. And then in Eswatini, we are still on that 493.16 in terms of all share volumes. And then in terms of gold is back at that 4,531 mark, largely due to, we're seeing a lot of buying into the commodity right now because of the uncertainty. But we know expectations are we are looking forward towards a high inflation environment where we're then going to see investors moving into those interest-bearing assets. And then in terms of Brent crude was actually at $108.25 dollars per barrel at midday trade, but it has since shot up to the 115,000 mark, $115 mark, due to that those statements coming out of the White House. But in terms of the US dollar Langani exchange rate, we are relatively weak, but staying at a relatively strong position compared to where we were earlier on in the morning at 17 Malangeni 16 cents per dollar and 19 Malangeni 72 cents per euro. But also showing those weaknesses against the Japanese yen, to sit at 9 Malangeni 30 cents to sit at 9 Malangeni 30 cents against the Japanese yen. Thank you, Nathalie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sbias and Elisibia, in-house economist, sharing insights on the day's trade. This has been Market View from myself and the team. Thank you very much for your company. Until next time, take care.